guys, it's Sarah and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a video I'm super excited to film because it is my October book haul. October was my birthday month, so I got a lot of gift cards to buy books at my favorite bookstore, which is Indigo, and I went a little crazy. I have 18 books to show you today, so I'm going to try and keep this as low-key as possible. I'm going to try to be very brief with the synopsis and everything, just so I can get through them as fast as possible, and so this video isn't a million years long. I'm not going to bother with the super long intro because this video is going to be super long already, so let's jump into my book haul. The first book is Don't Look Back by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is supposedly a psychological thriller. I've never read anything by Jennifer L. Armentrout before. I own Obsidian, but I haven't read it yet, so I don't know what her writing style is like, and I don't know if she can pull off psychological thrillers. And usually with thrillers, I prefer not to know anything because I feel like it preserves the intrigue a lot better, and I am surprised and end up enjoying the thriller a lot more if I barely know anything about it. So yeah, Don't Look Back is the first book that I got. The next book is Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. So this book is a horror, but it's kind of like a satire as well at the same time. This story follows Mila, who is part of like a Wiccan family, so like she has witchy roots and stuff, and her best friend Riley and a few of the other girls from their school that they go to die under very mysterious circumstances. The police rule it out as a suicide pact, and that obviously doesn't sit well with Mila because the other girls were like the mean girls and they often bullied Mila and Riley. So Mila, being a Wiccan, decides to raise Riley from the dead to ask her what happened, and she accidentally ends up raising the other girls who died along with Riley. The reason why I think this book is going to be funny is because when Mila raised the girls, she did it in a way that for them to still be like alive and walking and things like that, they have to be within a certain distance from her. If they get too far from Mila, then they start to decompose. To me, that just sounds really hilarious, so I'm really excited to read this and see what all of the hype is about. A lot of people really adored this book, so this is going to be my next read and I'm super excited to start it. This next book was a gift from a friend who lives in the Netherlands, so thank you again, I really appreciate it. And that book is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. So this is a LGBT romance between a prince and an ambassador's son, I believe, and I think at first it starts off as a joke, but then they get more and more into each other. I don't know too much about this book, and if I'm going to be honest, this book is so out of my comfort zone, but my friend loved this book so much. It's one of her favorite books of the year, so I was really excited when she sent it to me, and I'm really excited to read it to see why she loves it so much. Up next is Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowell. This is the Indigo exclusive edition, so it has exclusive inside flap art on the front and also on the back, and I think there might be some art in there as well throughout the book. And this is the sequel to Carry On. If you don't know what Carry On is, it is Rainbow Rowell's fantasy series that is based off of her contemporary Fangirl. In Fangirl, the main character, Kath, is a very big fan of Simon Snow, which is that world's equivalent of Harry Potter. It was a very good idea for Rainbow Rowell to write out Simon Snow's story, so I was eagerly awaiting for this to come out to read Carry On, but a few weeks after this was released, it was announced that there would be a third book, so now I'm kind of torn between, do I read Carry On and then this and wait for book 3, or do I just shelve both of these books and wait for book 3 to come out? So that's my dilemma. I don't know what I'm going to do about that yet, but these books are very anticipated reads of mine. Next up, we have To Best the Boys by Mary Weber. This is also a book that sounds very interesting to me. So it's about this girl named Ren who lives in a society where men and women have their distinct roles. The men are the doctors, the scientists, and the scholars, and the women take classes on how to be a good wife. Obviously, this displeases our main character because all she wants to be is a scientist. And in this world, every single year, there is kind of like a draft among the boys to see who will get chosen to be admitted to this prestigious university that is located in this world. The draft is kind of like a competition between the boys, so they're in a maze of some sort and they have to survive. Some of the boys die and don't make it out. So the general idea of this book is that our main character Ren is going to hack the system to get an invitation to this drafting / elimination process to be admitted to the university. This kind of gives me like Hunger Games vibes, and also it gives me Stalking Jack the Ripper vibes. So I'm very excited to figure out more about this book, and it seems like a very short read. So I might save this for like a readathon or an occasion where I need shorter books. So I'm very excited for this one. Up next, we have Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I have never read anything by either of these authors or by this author entity. I have heard a lot of good things about their Illuminate trilogy. It is apparently a very good sci-fi trilogy, and this is another sci-fi series by them that's set in space and that I think features like an intergalactic war or something like that. I don't know too much about this because this book is a sci-fi book, and usually sci-fi doesn't really interest me a lot. It's one of my least read genres, but this book has been so hyped that I decided I wanted to give it a go because I want to read more sci-fi, but I don't really know where to start, so I feel like Aurora Rising and as well as the Illuminate trilogy would be a good place to start because these authors are very, very beloved sci-fi writers. So I thought that I would get this and give it a go. The next book is Five Dark Fates by Kendar Blake, which is the last book in the Three Dark Crowns series. Back in May of this year, I read the whole entire Three Dark Crowns series up until this book, and this has been one of my most anticipated 2019 releases because Two Dark Reigns ended on such a cliffhanger, and I was really excited to find out what happened to my beloved characters. I'm going to read this book next month for Buzzwordathon. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to talk to you guys about it more in my November TBR video. But yes, this is going to be read next month, and I couldn't be more excited. Next, we have Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen McManus. So this is the same author who wrote One of Us is Lying, and I read that book earlier this month and really enjoyed it. And apparently, Two Can Keep a Secret is way better than One of Us is Lying. So if I really enjoyed One of Us is Lying, I feel like I'm going to love this one even more. So this book follows our main character, Ellery, who moves to this new town where her family used to live a long, long time ago. Her aunt actually disappeared in this town when she was 17, and 5 years prior, a 17-year-old girl was killed, I think, during homecoming. This year, an anonymous person threatened to make this homecoming season as memorable as it was 5 years ago. So I think the whole premise of this book is to figure out what happened, who killed the person who is going to be killed, and why. So this book sounds really, really interesting, and I cannot wait to read this soon. Next up is Serpent Dove by Shelby Mahurin. This is a book that I have been hearing so many good things about. Every single one of my friends who has read this loved it and gave it a very high rating. So this book is about a witch and a witch hunter who have to get married, so like a peace alliance can form or something like that, and that just sounds very intriguing because obviously it's like two polar opposites are forced to be together, and I think possibly a relationship blooms between them. So that just sounds so interesting to me, and I really love a good witchy book, so I'm super excited to read this, and hopefully I can read it before 2019 ends, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Next up, we have A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. Now, I know I don't own book 1 in the A Darker Shade of Magic trilogy, but I saw this at Indigo, and it's the exclusive collector's edition. Not only is it the exclusive collector's edition, but when I opened it up in the store to flip through it, I found that it was signed. So I obviously had to buy it, even though I don't own book 1 yet. This is a trilogy that I was going to purchase and I was going to read anyways because it is super freaking hyped. But when I found this edition and found out it was signed, I just had to buy it right away because signed editions are very, very rare here where I live, so I only own 2. I own my signed edition of Two Dark Reigns, and I owned this signed edition of A Gathering of Shadows now, so this is something that I was very excited to find. Next, we have The Babysitters Coven by Kate Williams. Remember how I said that I really love witchy books? Well, this is another witchy book, and I'm super excited for it. So one of our main characters is like the creator of like this babysitters club, and in comes the other main character who had received a note from her mom that said to find the babysitters club. So their futures kind of intertwine, and there is this kind of battle between good and evil, and it's witchy, and it just sounds so good. I'm really upset that I didn't have time to read this month, but I'm probably going to try to cram it in somewhere before 2019 ends. Next up, we have House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. This book has been so hyped, and I can understand why. This book is a retelling of the fairy tale of the 12 dancing princesses, and it's very eerie and very creepy apparently, because the twist is that the sisters are kind of dying one by one. So my guess is during the whole story you have to figure out who is killing off the sisters, and apparently it's very creepy, and this is something that I'm very excited for because usually retellings aren't creepy at all. I don't own many and I haven't read many retellings, so this one is one that I'm very excited to read. The next book is probably the book that inspired this whole birthday order, and that is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. I already read this, and it's one of my new favorite books of all time, one of my favorite books of 2019 by far. I gave it 5 stars. Before I go any further in explaining the book, I just want to clarify that depending on where you live, the book is either called The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle or The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I have seen both, and at first I was very confused, but they are the same book. It's just that depending where you live, the title is different. So if some of you guys were still confused by it or had no idea what was going on, then there you go, that's the explanation for it. So this book follows our main character who was invited to this manor in honor of the Hardcastles, and during the ball, during the dinner party at 11 p.m., Evelyn Hardcastle is murdered, and our main character has to figure out who did it, but until he figures out who killed her, the day repeats itself, and every single day he wakes up in the body of someone different. He wakes up in the body of a different guest. This is one of the more complex murder mysteries I have ever read, and honestly, this book is such a masterpiece. You have to be very concentrated when you're reading, because sometimes there are little details thrown in, and that if you don't pay attention, they just go right above your head. This book made me think, it made my brain hurt, and I didn't see the ending coming, and usually I'm pretty good at predicting what can happen in thrillers and mysteries, so this was a book that impressed me greatly, and I don't think I am ever going to stop talking about this book because it was just, I just loved it so much, and I really recommend you read this. Next up, we have The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. This is another mystery thriller. Can you tell that I'm obsessed with mystery thrillers? So The Turn of the Key is about this nanny who gets hired to babysit these 2 kids in this very luxurious smart house, and she thinks it's the gig of a lifetime because it has a very generous pay attached to it. So she takes the job and everything goes fine at first, but then one of the kids ends up dead, and she is the one who ends up being arrested for that murder. So the whole entire book is written in the style that our main character is writing letters to her attorney to explain what happened. I think the idea for this book stemmed from the modern fear that our technology and that our smart devices are listening to us and slowly becoming more intelligent, and that eventually they'll take us over. Because like I mentioned, the house in which this main character goes to babysit the kids at is a smart house. So you kind of have this thought of, did she kill them or did the house kill them? So it sounds like such an interesting concept. I haven't ever read a book by Ruth Ware. A lot of people are very 50-50 on if they like her books or not, so I'm going to go into this with an open mind. I'm very excited. A lot of my friends actually on Bookstagram have read this and really enjoyed it, so that makes me all the more excited to read it. Next up, we have The Chalkman by C.J. Tudor. This is another mystery thriller, and this book follows our main character, Eddie, who when he was younger, he, along with his gang of friends, discovered a dead girl's body in the woods, and they were being led there by drawings of chalkmen, so that's why the book is called The Chalkman. The book is written in dual timelines, so you have the timeline of the past when Eddie was a child and when he discovered the body of the dead girl, and it also takes place in the 2016 future. So this is the type of book where something happened in the main character's past and that the whole mystery is being uncovered and solved in the present. I've already read this book and I really enjoyed it. It's a very interesting concept and I really love the way it was written. This is actually C.J. Tudor's debut book, which I find super impressive because this book was a really good mystery thriller. If you're a fan of It by Stephen King, you're going to enjoy this. It has a lot of similarities, so if you're a fan of It, I definitely recommend you pick this up. Even if you're not a fan of It, I recommend you pick this up anyway because it's a very short and entertaining mystery thriller, and I feel like anybody can enjoy this even if you're kind of like a newbie to the mystery thriller genre. I feel like this would be a good book for you. The next two books that I'm going to show you go together, and they are The Heart of Betrayal and The Beauty of Darkness by Mary E. Pearson, books 2 and 3 in the Remnant Chronicles. So I have owned The Kiss of Deception for nearly 5 years now. I think I bought it in 2014 and I read it shortly after, and I remember really enjoying it, but other than that, I don't remember anything else. I didn't have the other books to continue on with this trilogy, so I figured I should buy books 2 and 3, reread book 1, and then continue on with this trilogy. Even years after their release, these books are so hyped, especially with the newer books that Mary E. Pearson released, which are Vow of Thieves and A Dance of Thieves, that I think are written in the same world. So eventually I'd like to read those as well, so I have to read these first, and I'm very, very excited. And apparently the story gets like 10 times better after book 1, so this makes me even more excited to read the following books in this trilogy. The last book I have to show you is Capturing the Devil by Carrie Maniscalco, which is the last book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. So I read Stalking Jack the Ripper and the following books in August and September, and I loved those books so much. It's one of my new favorite series of all time. So I'm very excited to be holding this book in my hands right now. I'm a little late to the party because Capturing the Devil has been out for like more than a month now, but better late than never. I'm really excited to find out how this series ends, but I'm also a little bit nervous because I'm really scared that the ending won't do the series justice. My goal is to read this before 2019 ends because the previous books are all really fresh in my mind, so I feel like now would be the perfect time to read this. So either in November or December, this is going to be read, and I am so excited. So there you have it. That was my full October book haul. I still can't believe I purchased 18 books this month. That is crazy. I don't think I have ever hauled this many books outside of like a Christmas haul or a Book Outlet Boxing Day haul. The funny thing is I didn't pay a single penny out of my pocket for all of these books because, like I mentioned, it was my birthday in October and I got a crap ton of gift cards. So I used my gift cards to buy all of these books. Let me know in the comments down below if you see any favorites of yours. Let me know which ones you've read, and if you enjoyed them, I would be really curious to know. Also, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you liked this video and if you want to see more videos like this one. Make sure you also click that red subscribe button down below right here so you can subscribe to my channel and be aware every time I post a new video. So that was it for today, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!